What if I told you they're building a tomb with a party room? Yes, my friends, are you hearing this right? They've come to bury a deceased person with a trailer because he worked in the trailer industry. Just to give you an idea of what a tomb can cost here, they range from about 1 million pesos up to 40 million pesos. Hello everyone and welcome to another Dominguero vlog. Many people have been contacting me since I arrived in Culiacán, Sinaloa. You're filming luxury, so how come you haven't visited the most expensive tombs in the world during your trip to Mexico? Yes, you heard that right. What I have behind me here might look like a church, it might look like a monument, but no, it's one of the many luxurious private tombs here in Culiacán. There are various types of tombs here, catering to all budgets. I'll focus on the most unusual ones. But remember, we're in one of the most expensive cemeteries in the whole world. Even a small plot here will cost you a significant amount of money. But even so, if what you want is for your loved ones to live in style, this is the right place. So, how about I quickly show you the graves with air conditioning? Probably faster internet connection than in your own home and their own jacuzzi. So let's see what the famous tombs of Culiacán are all about. Of course, my friends, this is the way to rest in peace. Come with me. As you can see, many of the tombs remain under construction. This area is expanding. I imagine getting a plot of land here must be quite costly. After all, these are very large spaces that, as you can see, need a lot of size. They need a large plot of land to be built. The cost of the space will ultimately depend on your budget, as options range from large to smaller spaces with varying material costs. Factors that determine the final cost include the size, materials, air conditioning, and any additional installations you wish to include. Remember that many of these tombs even have large belongings such as jewelry and treasures. This is reminiscent of how pharaohs were buried in ancient times. These are the pharaohs of the 21st century, my friends. It literally feels like we're walking through a neighborhood in Italy or something like that. They're like little houses, typical villages, but remember that these aren't actually houses, even though this could easily be the entrance to a house in Italy. Take a look at the size of these tombs, my friends. We have to step back so the camera can capture it. It's literally the equivalent of a Greek pantheon. Obviously, many of these materials are imported either from Italy or from Europe, but many others are, of course, materials made right here in Mexico. Either way, the truth is that it's a design you don't usually see in Mexico, at least not that I've seen. And we find different types of architecture, from very modernist tombs to more classic ones. But what is clear is that here they have invested a high budget to be able to commemorate their relatives, since, as we have said before, what they want is that even though they have gone to a better life, they do so in the best conditions. Remember that these tombs are obviously for very wealthy people. These aren't just for drug lords, as many may assume. There's also room for artists, businessmen, and even politicians. Take a look, we're talking about marble materials with lots of glass windows, as we mentioned before, so that it has lighting, like this one, which is made of a simpler material. And after all, not everyone likes something flashy, but they do like to commemorate it, right? Well, there's room here for all kinds of taste. In fact, take a look at this one, for example. It would be something more classic. And the truth is that many of these remind me of the classic style of European churches. Obviously, I'm speaking from my point of view as a European. I haven't visited many churches here in Mexico, but as you can see, many of them even have gardens. They have benches so that everyone can gather their families, come from time to time, and have a good time. Because remember that here in Mexico, death is a reason to celebrate instead of being sad. Here in Mexico, people prefer to take away a good memory and enjoy time with their loved ones. In fact, here on Day of the Dead, they even have celebrations, they bring in bands, they bring their favorite musicians, and in general, they gather here to celebrate. It's something that would blow people's minds in other countries. It would blow their minds. Because, well, after all, death is something very respected, and in the end, here they do it as a celebration. As a foreigner, witnessing all this honestly drives me crazy. I think that in Spain, you would rarely see a beer in a cemetery, but here it's a reason to celebrate, and they definitely know how to celebrate it in a big way. Many might think the cemetery is just a small plot, but as you can see, they have diverse plant life. That's because obviously they have an area where all the family members gather, where they pray for the deceased, and then, well, on the upper floors, they have other living rooms. They have rooms where you can even stay here to sleep or just rest to be with your loved ones, right? Of course, to me, it's something that blows my mind that you can actually stay overnight in the cemetery. In fact, what if I told you they're building a tomb with a party room? Yes, yes, my friends, you heard that right, a party room. Come with me, I'll show you. In fact, many of the tombs in this case are outside. As you can see, here we have a clear image of what it all would be. Remember, it's not just one tomb, but rather for several family members. So it's very common that outside the pantheon, outside these structures, you'll find the tombs, and in the end, they bury the whole family together. Many of those houses are completely armored. They told me to go knock on the door. Listen, honestly, I don't know why a house like that would need to be armored. I guess it's in case someone comes to visit them, so they have protection. But they told me that even during construction, they shot some bullets at this glass, which, as we've said, is completely armored. After all, since many of these families are powerful, even when they're just visiting, they need these kinds of buildings to be completely armored. Families visit this place daily to make various offerings, including candles, decorated flowers, teddy bears, and other commemorative items. To clarify, it's not just about having the chapel, but also maintaining it, which involves monthly or even daily expenses to keep everything running. Someone must maintain clean and generally keep them in good condition. Many of these, as you can see, even have their own trophies, and in general, they have what defines them, right? Each chapel is completely personalized, and after all, it's meant to commemorate the person who passed away here, and in many cases, the entire family. Depending on the field they worked in, many of these have weapons. They have, well, obviously, this one looked like he was a soccer player. If he was a guitarist, they have the best guitar from his biggest concert. Many times they bury them with something symbolic, to the point where they've even buried someone with a trailer because he worked in the trailer industry. That's crazy. Can you imagine the hole they had to dig to bury a trailer? That's the kind of eccentricities you find in Culiacán. Just so you get an idea, this is an ego contest. When someone builds a mausoleum, the most extravagant one of all, another family comes along and says, "No way, I'm going to have the most extravagant tomb." It gets to the point where it's not just about the construction, but about the materials. They even use gold in their own buildings. Wow. Just look at the material they use, pure marble. And actually, they even buy plots to make their own patios where they invite their bands and just hang out here, having a good time with their families. And in general, they can enjoy the outdoor areas that the cemetery has to offer. We find cemeteries with up to 3 floors. In fact, they're already building one with 4, and inside we find pool rooms. We find entertainment areas like a kitchen and even large rooms with a jacuzzi, because after all, many people spend the night here, and in the end, they are literally houses. I mean, you could live here. I don't know how legal it is to live here, but these are houses, my friends. They're officially houses. Many of these houses are filled with religious figures like saints. They're all over the inside of the properties. Many of those properties, in many cases, look like mini churches and could literally be churches in a lot of the towns. But what I liked about this one in particular is the contrast of colors. It's a completely different design. What I like is that each one of the tombs is characterized by having its own architect, by having its own design. After all, it must represent the family uniquely, which they're certainly achieving. Many of them, I suppose they must be from the same family because they follow the same design, from small to medium to large. Friends, check out the interior design. I wish I could access one of these tombs to show you the inside. Because one thing is what we're seeing on the outside, but I assure you that inside they're much more eccentric and much more luxurious. But obviously, for privacy reasons, for now we'll only observe from the outside, but if you want an inside visit, you know what to do. Leave a like and I'll ask several of my acquaintances if they'd like us to do a tour of the inside, because after all, there's a lot of investment and dedication here. And I'm sure their families are super proud of this construction, because after all, this is something unique that you can only see in very few places in the world. This one, for example, is one of my favorites. Take a look at the big glass window. You already know that it's very important to have good lighting, just like if we find marble, onyx stone, which is a very expensive stone, and it even has video surveillance cameras, and obviously it has an alarm security, and after all, they also want to make sure it has privacy and good security. Remember, my friends, that this is not a tourist area. You need a permit, and obviously this is only for family members and guests. Obviously, for privacy reasons, I'm not going to give any names. Remember that, of course, there are all kinds of profiles here, my friends. Out of respect for the families, of course, I'm not going to mention any names. But if you are around here or you know the stories, which many are myths, many are real, you'll be reading the comments. This mausoleum can hold up to 42 people, but only the father and son are interred here. That's why this is one of the priciest ones here, but I'll show you one of my favorites and likely one of the most expensive in this entire area. Come with me. Just by telling you that many of these graves have their own ballads, I don't need to say anything else. In fact, this one is also armored, and actually right behind me it holds some very famous knives. Let's see who recognizes it. Friends, we even found a Batman grave. It was probably for a baby who was a fan of the series. Because unfortunately, in many cases, it's the children who pass away. And well, they also have to be buried, and they also have to be remembered, and what better way to do it than with the series that marked their childhood the most, in this case, Batman. And in fact, many graves are decorated with balloons and children's toys, showing that babies also have a place in this cemetery. Aside from the large construction, like this one, which might be the biggest of all, in fact, it even has a lightning rod on top. Can you imagine a stormy night? Well, literally, the lightning would strike there and light up the cemetery. That must be quite a show, although it doesn't thunder much here in Sinaloa despite the heat. Still, the idea really impressed me. As I mentioned, it's not just the construction, but the land itself. Having a plot here to build something like this is one of the most expensive plots for the deceased in the world, I assure you. We were lucky enough to have access to a tomb under construction, but in this case, they made their own tomb of a different size. Just so you get an idea, about 15 deceased people can fit here, and obviously they had this made for themselves. And then take a look at the construction they have here to go up to the rooftop. As you can see, this one has a completely unique design because normally they're spacious, but this one is obviously taller. So, everyone has their own preferences, and this is a clear example. We even found a recreation of the Taj Mahal, which for those who don't know is one of the 7 wonders of the world located in India, and it's a tomb. In this case, they've made a replica here in Culiacán. At night, it's incredibly beautiful. I'll leave you some shots here to enjoy. And in this case, it's not one of the most eccentric, but I could say it's one of the most beautiful. Just to give you an idea of how much a tomb here can cost, they range from about 1 million pesos up to 40 million pesos. Obviously, it will depend on whether it's armored, the materials, and so on. But here it's clear that people invest a lot in their loved ones. With every step, I discover a new little gem. This one we found is truly iconic. We're discussing solid marble here. To keep this video brief, please subscribe, click the bell, and comment if you've recognized any of the tombs. Which one did you like most? What do you think about this afterlife lifestyle? It's left me speechless, honestly. Of course, this is definitely a nice way to rest and make sure your loved ones are comfortable. What could be better than being able to invest in them? So from here, I want to send a hug to everyone who has lost a loved one. My condolences to you, and I hope you enjoyed this as entertainment. Subscribe and click the bell for more videos from Sinaloa and across Mexico that you're sure to enjoy. Now, if you'll allow me, I'm going to rest for a while because honestly, I'm exhausted and speechless. Thanks for joining me. See you in the next video in a few days. See you later, family.